to Intermediate Level English Language Arts.
Hi, and welcome to English Language Arts Grade 4. Our topic for today would be the S and the possessive form of nouns. Alright, so let's discuss first the different objectives that we're going to be discussing for this video. The first one would be to be able to recognize, identify, and form nouns in the S and in the possessive form. And the next one is to be able to differentiate these two common forms. Okay, let's go with the very first form, shall we? Singular and plural nouns. Now, when you talk about nouns, there are two very common forms that you can think of. You have the singular form and the plural form. Basically, when you say singular form, this is when it is just referring to one person, one object, one thing, one animal, one place, one event, one. When you say plural, it is more than one, two or more, right? Now, there are examples. These are the examples of singular nouns. So nouns in the singular form. Take note, right? For nouns in the singular form, right, they have what you call an article, or even what you call a determinant. Usually it can be an article like an a or an or the sometimes, right? Or it could be starting with a numeral, for example, 1. Now, here we have examples: an egg, an onion, a bottle, a melon, an apple, one driver, one sales clerk, one janitor, one storekeeper, 1 hour. Now, these are all nouns in the singular form, right? Now, what if you'd like to make them plural? Take note, if you'd like to make something plural, you add simply s. So previously, you had 1 egg or an egg. Now you have 2 eggs. An onion, you have 2 onions. A bottle, you have 6 bottles. A melon, you have 10 melons. A while ago, you had 1 driver. Now we have 5 drivers. You had 1 sales clerk. Now you have 8 sales clerks. 1 janitor, 7 janitors. 1 storekeeper, 3 storekeepers. And this is the very common way of making a noun plural, simply adding s. But is this the only rule that we have? No, there are apparently even more. Now, there are specific rules in making nouns plural or turning them into their plural form. Okay, if they end in s, ss, z, x, ch, or sh, you add es. Take, for example, box, boxes, class, classes, quiz, quizzes. Take note for quiz, right? You add an extra z. If it ends in z, just 1 z, then you add an extra z and then es. Dishes, buses, and then pheasants, right? Now, if it ends in y, and before the y you have a vowel, you simply just add s. So, for example, day becomes days, toy becomes toys, trolley becomes trolleys, way becomes ways. Right? Next. For example, if it ends in y, but before the y you have a consonant. So a while ago, previously, if before the y is a vowel, they just add s. But what if it is before? If it ends in y, but before y it's a consonant? The rule is change y to I first, and then add es. All right. What if it ends in f? For most of the nouns that ends in f, right, just simply add s. Chefs, dwarfs, handkerchiefs, staffs. But for certain nouns that ends in f, right, you simply change the f to v and then add es. If it ends in fe, change the f to v and then add s. Knife becomes knives, life becomes lives. Both end in fe, change the f to v first and then add s. Shelf becomes shelves, thief becomes thieves, right? Shelf and thief, they both end in f, so change the f to d and then add es. Now, for nouns that end in o, right, simply just add s. Studios, Davos, Filipinos, radios. But there are certain nouns that end in o that you add either s or es, such as, for example, flamingo can be either flamingos, as in just s, or flamingos with an es. Same as with mango, mangoes, volcano, volcanoes, tornado, tornadoes. Okay? And some, right, those nouns that end in o you only have to add es, not just s. For example, potato becomes potatoes, tomato, tomatoes, echo, echoes, hero, heroes. Right? You don't just add an s there. You don't say that's that is five potatoes, tomatoes. No, you add es. Right? Before we go to the next rules, you might ask servants, how will we know if you just have to change the F to V first and then add ES or just add S? Or how do we know if you just add ES or S to those that end in O? Well, I can't give you the exact or the all of the words that would have specific rules for them, because if I were to do that, it would take a lot of time. So what would I suggest? I suggest you guys keep reading, keep watching, keep playing games, movies, books that use the English language. You are immersing yourself in the English language. With that, you get to expand your vocabulary, and you also get to know which words would you just add s or es or change it to f, the f to b first, right? Okay? There is no shortcut for this. Even for me, even in my age, I still learn new words, which is why it is very important. One of the biggest thing that would help you, read. Read books that uses the English language. With this, you get to really develop and expand your vocabulary. Now, what about certain nouns? There are certain nouns which you call irregular nouns. These are nouns that do not follow the adding s or es rule. Rather, they change spelling. Take, for example, some of them you just change one or two words, like man becomes men, blouse becomes lice, woman becomes women, tooth becomes teeth, mouse becomes mice, foot becomes feet. And some you change it entirely. For example, child becomes children, and ox becomes oxen. And another, which is not also mentioned in your books, sometimes you do not change the spelling at all. Take, for example, deer. The plural of deer is just deer. The plural of sheep is just sheep as well. Alright? Okay. Now, these are the different rules that you have to follow when you'd like to make a noun, you'd like to turn a noun into the S form or the plural form. Now, what about the next one? The possessive form. Now, the possessive form is easier. See, there is a general rule. And the general rule of the possessive form is that you just simply add an apostrophe and then S. But if it ends in S, just add an apostrophe. It's that simple. Like, for example, Andy's toys. You'd like to say that Andy owns toys, so you use a possessive form, right? And this shows ownership. Therefore, you'd like to say that Andy owns toys, you say Andy's toys. Now, Andy ends in Y, it doesn't end in S, so you have to add an apostrophe and then S. Ladies section. Now, you'd like to say that ladies, more than one lady, right, owns a certain section. Therefore, right, you'd like to give an apostrophe only. It ends in S already. So just add an apostrophe. Yes, men's room, Mrs. Jones's car. Now, using the possessive form of nouns could be used also for various things. For example, to show human relationship. Like, for example, dad's daughter, mother's son. Or two, show traits or characteristics, like, for example, Ralph's hair, Leo's smile. Okay? Tell that something is named after somebody or something. Take, for example, St. Patrick's Cathedral, right? Or probably you would name a certain bridge or a certain building to a certain person. Yes? So St. Peter's Church. Sometimes you also use it to express measurement of time. For example, a day's work, right? How much would you have to spend? You'd have to spend a day's worth of waiting. You would also like to show a noun and another noun derived from a verb. Take, for example, the sun's revolution, the phone's vibration. Yes. And also number 6, to show source or origin. Take, for example, China's China's traditions, or for example, Japan's heritage, Korea's dramas. Yes. All of these are different ways of using the possessive form. Now take note. Okay. The S in the possessive form can look rather similar, but there is a big difference. For the S form or the plural form, you only use it to show that there is more than one noun. For possessive form, you are showing that the noun owns something. For the S form or the plural form, all you have to do is add S or ES, depends on the situation. For the possessive form, you only have to add an apostrophe and then S if it doesn't end in S, but if it ends in S, only add just an apostrophe. Make sure you don't mess up those two things, right? Again, S form, possessive form. And this summarizes pretty much the two comparisons of the two different noun forms that we have discussed, the S form and the possessive form. Okay? And with that, this ends our video. I will see you on the next video. Bye!